Good afternoon, one and all. A very warm welcome to the panel discussion on attacks on energy infrastructure. I would like to invite the eminent speakers for the panel discussion. Mr. Jayant Gupta, Chief General Manager, Infrastructure and Development, Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited, will be the moderator of the session. I welcome you, sir. And I invite Mr. Ramesh Akalla, CISO, Telangana State Power Corporation Limited. I welcome you. And I invite Mr. Dr. Sandeep Shukla, Program Director of C3I Hub and Professor of CSE, IIT Kanpur. I welcome you. And I invite Mr. Moon Elangal, Industrial Network and Cybersecurity Senior Consultant. And I welcome Mr. Vinman, Senior Director, CISAC. I welcome you all. So over to you, operator.
Friends, as you are aware, critical sector across the world involves sectors with even a moderate disruption ripples the country. Energy sector in most countries and also here is a critical sector which moves the economy. Almost all the industries, offices, and homes require energy to do the normal business or any personal activity. In India, three major areas, electricity, oil, and gas, are part of this energy sector. We have already seen electricity becoming a major driver, with transport also going the electric way. Almost all the components involved in production, transmission, and consumption in energy stream are automated. Some of us might have seen the connected electricity meters, which not only do the automated readings, but are also able to control the delivery of electricity. We've heard of cyber attacks recently on Colonial Pipeline in this year, Mexican state oil firm Pemex in 2019, on Ukraine power grid in 2015, and there are many more, which are suspected to be cyber attacks, but not confirmed by the authorities. We need to be aware of these challenges and ensure the control systems are well protected from cyber attacks. With me, I have an august panel of experts who range from academia to consultancy to commercial organization and further on to research. And we look at various aspects of these attacks and on the infrastructure, energy infrastructure in particular. So let me begin with Mr. Moon Iluvangal. If you could take us through the typical attacks that took place and the modus operandi behind them. You're mute, Mr. Iluvangal. Still. I think we'll skip over to Mr. Bindu. In the meantime, Mr. Iluvangal, if you could check your audio. So, Mr. Bindu, we've seen the typical attacks, and what, in your opinion, is being done by the state to ensure preparedness to thwart any attack? Any thoughts on those?
Yeah. Good evening, all of you. First of all, I think this is a very important subject of discussions what we are having. As far as the attacks are concerned and the incidences which have been reported and the basic technology or the threat which has gone behind this, trying to analyze that. There are six types of attacks which are possible. One is the protocol attacks, routing attacks, intrusions, then worms, spyware, malware, denial of service if it is on a network, and insider threats. So these are some of the things which are possible things which can happen on any critical infrastructure. Of course, the energy sector happens to be one. So energy here, what I understand is it's not only the electricity, the allied things, the oil, gas, that is a fuel chain also. So the electricity chain and the fuel chain, a combination of that. Now, as far as the current days attacks are concerned, it is more or less sequential sort of thing. Uh, because especially in this particular sector, the architecture is which is followed as defense in depth architecture. And which are the next level with advanced actors. So these are the things which are happening. So I think
Great. Thanks, Mr. Bindu. Mr. Ramesh, you are a CISO for TS Genco. Uh, could you help us in bringing out the challenges faced by a commercial organization in managing the security and what has been done in terms of preparedness?
Yeah. Good afternoon, Mr. Jayant and all the fellow speakers on the panel. Let me first thank you for the opportunity to share with you all and know from you all also. See, as far as Telangana State Generation Power Corporation is concerned, we have massively taken up IT applications in the organization way back in 2012 and 13, where we implemented SAP ERP in a big way. And after formation of TH Genco in 2014, we have continued the same application in TH Genco also. We faced many challenges with regard to even cyber security in ensuring that our systems were always available for the user departments, because we run the plants 24/7, and the application is also expected to be available for the users 24/7. There is no exception. Even for small downtime, we are taken to calls. If that is the case, then how do we ensure that our systems are always available, and then yet they are free from the so-called cyber threats? Yes, we have also been cautioned by the Ministry of Home Affairs that one of our IP, for example, was frequently getting targeted. So we are also getting continuously the support from certain. We have certain for MITI, certain for Ministry of Power. So they are from time to time communicating various guidelines and giving recommendations. So we are truly implementing all of them. And then initially we have identified what are all the critical information infrastructure that is prevailing in the company, because unless this inventory is identified, we never know which part is contributing to this maybe intrusion of malware itself, because ours is a big network. Now corporate is spread across all the plants. We have something like 15 locations, and our installed capacity is something like 6,000 plus megawatt, in which basically we are into two streams, thermal and hydel, and of course solar. We have presence, but it's limited to 1 megawatt because a lot of private players have come. But the point is, essentially the corporation is vested with three things. One is we have to maintain the existing plants by doing more effectively operations and maintenance, and we also have to set up new plants. We are setting up 4,000 megawatt plant at Yadadri and 1,080 megawatt plant at Manuguru, Bhadrachalam, near Bhadrachalam. But then we also will take up the R&M, renovation and modernization of the existing units. So to do this business more effectively, we have laid a vision of the corporation that we want to be the best in the country and one of the best in the world by using the state-of-art technologies and smart solutions. But then the vision is very clearly stated, but how to realize that? So for which the IT has become a backbone, and it is leveraging the processes. And we have two verticals in the organization. One is our OT. OT, it was earlier standalone system. It was not talking to the external world. It was this situation was there maybe decade back, and maybe in 2000 in 2010. But then the modern stations which have been built, they're all having sophisticated DCS, sophisticated PLCs, and then SCADA. All these are in place. Now we are able to switch on our one of the 400 kV substation. Our beloved chairman inaugurated, and this substation for Kaleshwaram project right from our corporate office in Vidyut Sauda, and from Hyderabad. When that has been the state of art technology usage, then you may ask, or somebody will ask us, whether are you free from so-called the cyber attacks. So that is the challenge. We have been on our toes. If you allow me to speak, even I extend beyond Genco, because I was also associating with Transco and their SLDC. In the month of February, there was an attack, but immediately we were alerted by the we must thank certain who who sent immediate alert and asked us to isolate and then investigate, and later on we have taken so many measures. But the point is, attacks on power sector increasingly happening, particularly the transmission sector is facing with 63% of the total attacks, and later followed by discoms and then the Genco. When you come to the Genco, it's only 13%. But then, in case, you already mentioned in our inaugural remarks that Ukraine example you have given, but it is a disaster. And I must also thank the certain hydro. They are proactively asking us and conducting review meetings and making us ready for preparing any sort of threat that is happening on the entire system. Because with one incident, if something happens in the power plant, the entire dam will also collapse, and there would be, we can't even imagine what would be the extent of level of damage. So coming to taking the measures, the challenges have been like, there is a demand for IT OT integration. Why? Because the plants are no longer, as I said earlier, on island basis. They need to talk to, because in the pandemic, professionals were not available at the site, and we need to open our system to allow the professionals work from remote mode. So what is happening? We never know, once whether you use TeamViewer or otherwise, once you extend your system, the things are not in our control. Therefore, there is a challenge in terms of extending the systems on a remote basis. But yet, we need to have the visibility of the plant. Yesterday, the back office from CMD, they are saying that I want to see everything of my plant. You are incurring so much of expenditure. Why do I ask the people to know what are the complaints that are there on the major equipment? What are the idle equipment? So all this stuff I want. See, demand is ever increasing. At the same time, the potential for cyber attacks is also equally increasing. So now the managers, the IT managers, policy makers, IT project directors, they are under the tremendous pressure as to how they can balance these two requirements. The requirement is, we need to create visibility so as to take effective decision on the day-to-day business. We need to allow the people to work from remote mode, and we need to have high availability of the system, yet safeguarding the systems and making the systems free from these cyber attacks. So we have also got very internal team, very competent team, but any amount of team's effort, we need to have this is a collaborative platform, because in India also there is a lot of shortage for this cyber security experts, and also is the case in the organizations also. And the other challenge is, we need to upgrade the when that SLDC issue had come, and we checked a lot of systems, a lot of end user systems, a lot of endpoints, even supported by Microsoft Windows 7, then the XP, and the older versions. And when you ask for an upgradation, it is not that you only upgrade the endpoint, leaving the application aside. Again, application has to be brought to work with the newest or newer systems. Then the investment, then the budget support. So they are all coming as a hindrance for taking up aggressively. And third challenge which we have been facing also, retaining the trained and competent team ensures cyber attacks free through NOC or SOC, whatever you call. So we are unable, because of the policies in the organization, we are unable to retain the people. Therefore, we are struggling hard to have that know-how and safeguard the systems. So these are all the areas. But then coming to the preparedness, yes, on the application security side, we have taken lots of measures, like we have deployed web application firewall, and there is a UTM feature in it also. And then there were the also filters at the database level and the XML security level. SSL also we have brought in for all applications, and two-factor authentication, which was not there earlier, we have incorporated along with the captcha. That is application level, but even server security level also, continuous monitoring of server management, and then the OS, DBAs, all these areas, continuous upgrades of the systems like operating systems or database or application software is happening ritually. And then network security, network level also we got analyzer which is supporting us to identify what are all the threats that are coming from external world. And then we also have deployed one satellite server which will push the latest signatures even to the firewalls of the station. And the firewall also, we have a two-level firewall. The user who is getting connected to the application from a plant, he has to undergo through the firewall it is station, and then even the central architecture also. So this kind of arrangement is already built in. And then emailing also, we have our own solution on that also. We have taken various measures, like keeping disclaimer messages, and then scanning the attachment, disabling the URL link to getting it open from the mail itself. And we have also disabled certain file types like .exe. All these steps are based on the recommendations and suggestions given by the CERT and our own people. They have studied extensively and did. And we have also gone to the extent of putting a cap on the recipients. You can't send the mail, because once we sent like that, and then our URL was blasted. So these were all the ground level experiences that we have with us, and we are daily. It is a kind of test for the IT managers here. Today it is safe, nothing has happened, but what would happen tomorrow, we never know. So that is the
So
status
we'll
prevailing.
come to the tomorrow part. You've laid out the challenges and the preparedness very well, Mr. Kala. Let me come back to Mr. Eluvangal. And Mr. Ramesh brought out the aspect of mail protection. And while we were going through the attacks, we found some of the attacks being happening through the mail spamming kind of a thing. Would you help us in understanding more about these attacks and the modus operandi behind them, Mr. Eluvangal?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, for giving this opportunity and all the audience. So, but I think now I'm there. Yeah. Basically, if the activities that have been in already, when you all this cyber attacks that happen critical subjects as per the reports published by Deloitte. This I was talking about specifically for US, but I believe the same across the globe, and maybe but it could be worse, right? And coming to attacks, so if we see the history of attacks that have happened from Stuxnet to the very recent one, maybe colonial attack, or maybe team viewer hack in a water utility, not on energy, but yeah. So if you see the chronology, I would classify basically the attacks into the targeted attack and non-targeted attacks. Okay, so the non-targeted being maybe an accidental or sometimes even an WannaCry type of malware outbreak or even NotPetya. Okay, so that is not specifically targeting the ICS space, but we have news or we have the details in public domain that so many energy utility companies have been infected. Even in India, West Bengal, Discom have been infected due to this WannaCry. Okay, then now shifting to the focused or targeted attack, we can found certain parameters in common. One is it is very sophisticated. Second, they use very ICS specific malware. Third, we can find links to a nation which is sponsoring the attack. Okay, so this has been the pattern when we take all this ICS targeted attack. And coming, I was thinking to explain some of the attacks, what patterns and all. But at the interest of time, maybe I will focus on the Ukrainian power attack which have happened. So in which, like you Jayan mentioned, it was a phishing email which stolen the IT passwords for a remote access. Okay, then the attacker coming to the Windows AD for their enterprise, then they get an access of, they even created a new user with administrative privileges, and then they entered into ICS side, then they monitored the HMI, and then they do everything, and even it affected more than 200,000 people, right? So and finally, the Discom have to go to the each station to manually switch it on. They removed that computer control and they have to switch it manually on. So this has happened. So and if even in the colonial or everything, the pattern is like it is coming from the IT side. So first they get hold of IT, and then it is slowly coming to the ICS side. Unlike maybe the HMI, sorry, the USB drop, which have happened in Stuxnet. Otherwise, most of them is coming from the ICS side to the OT, or sorry, from the IT side to ICS or OT. So this is one thing which I can, as a summary and my observation from the attacks happened in the past year.
Wonderful. So, Dr. Shukla, you come from one of the most premier institutes in India, the IITs. So, one of the ways of ensuring the organization is prepared for cyber attack is to follow the standards, the processes, and the procedures that are laid out. What, in your thoughts, would be for the ICS system? What kind of standards should the organization be looking at, and where do they really fit in terms of the whole cybersecurity coverage that we try to provide to an organization?
All right. So thank you for your question. So I will take the discussion we had so far as an example of why we need standards, because we are discussing for last 20-30 minutes and nobody has said anything about risk assessment. Nobody has anything about risk-driven security. People are talking about point solutions, firewall, network, traffic intrusion detection, endpoint protection. But the whole idea of a standard-driven methodology for security is embodied in IEC 62443. And even if you go to ISO standard in the IT domain, is 27001, there, see, you cannot have 100% security. And therefore, according to the NIST framework, you have to have protection, but you also have detection through monitoring. You have to have response, and you have to have recovery functions. And if you don't have those, then having expensive firewall, having expensive IDS, antivirus, all that stuff may not be enough for securing your infrastructure. Given that, 62443 is a wonderful standard. It has, basic concept of 62443 is that you have to first do a high-level risk assessment, and then you have to do a detailed risk assessment. After you do the threat analysis, you do threat modeling, and you also do vulnerability assessment, and you pair the threats and vulnerabilities and look at the consequences of the attack, and then you actually find the risk, and you find which areas of your system has the highest risk, and accordingly you have to do the apportioning your budget, apportioning your security mechanisms, and also isolation of parts that are highly critical compared to the parts are not so critical. So you have to zone your network in such a way so that the high criticality zones are isolated through firewall IDS, even though you have a perimeter security of IDS, etc. So I think that I was actually working with the Power Ministry to formulate the guidelines that have been already been made public already. And in that, actually, some of us pushed for 62443 to be mandatory. Unfortunately, a lot of the utilities, they have concerns about the availability of 62443 certified products, 62443 risk analysis teams, as well as 62443 certification agencies. There are very few 62443 certification agencies in India, which we have to change. We have to work towards having more 62443 certified products, 62443 auditors, and risk analysts. We have in the guideline made 27001 as mandatory. Unfortunately, even the most recent meeting, I heard that some of the smaller utilities are even not able to do that because they don't have the manpower, as well as don't have the certifiers, etc., etc. So this is very while the ministry and the CEA and the NCIPC are taking a very good step by first coming up with the guidelines, and this guideline is pretty comprehensive. It's not written the way I would have liked it to be written in a risk-driven manner, but it has a lot of the protection mechanisms. It has the response and recovery requirements, and also it has a cyber disaster management plan requirement. All this stuff are already there. I'm hoping that this will first make a change in the industry, after which 62440 can be brought in at a more total point. So I think the standards-driven security is very important. Now, one of the major problems with the 62443 is that ISA has makes money out of this. The association that teaches 62443 takes the exam to certify 62443, etc. They make a lot of money, and it is very expensive. 4 lakhs per, two 5-day course is 4 lakhs. It's that too also a discounted price if you do it in a large group. And I think for this, I have been asking and I hear that BIS, the Bureau of Indian Standards, is trying to make an Indian standard based on 62443. We already have a Indian standard for 27001. So if we have that, and then we can have organizations like NPTI, the National Power Training Institute, etc., to certify, right? It doesn't have to be called 62443. It can be called whatever Indian standard it is called. But I think the concepts there, and the risk-driven security and implementation of all this NIST core functions. The other thing that we are trying to do is to actually develop a cybersecurity maturity model for the various sectors. through which NCIRPC can actually benchmark organizations about their maturity level, which is also in line with the NIST guideline, which is the profiles, the NIST profiles. So I think that is another place to go. I think that overall, I think I am pretty happy because 1 year ago, for several years, we have been pushing the organizations, the government organizations, to come up with guidelines. RBI, SEBI, they have guidelines for the last 5 years for cybersecurity. Not that they're very good, but they are actually something. But now, Power Ministry has also decided to do it. I think in last 1 year, they have made a lot of push. They're also working towards the trusted vendor certification. So there these vendors will be benchmarked against their security practices and so on. So only those vendors are allowed into our power sectors. So various things are going on, and I think they are all very standard driven. So I think that we have reason to be hopeful.
Wonderful. Mr. Ramesh talked about the shortage of manpower, Mr. Moon. Any thoughts on the knowledge of ICS devices with the typically organizations or people? There is a limited knowledge availability of ICS devices in these organizations. So how do we manage that aspect?
Yeah. So person at my job responsible to develop the strategy and cybersecurity architecture of this side. So this is one of the biggest challenges most of the organizations facing, like the skill gap. Okay. So basically there are people in the IT side who knows about security, but they are not well versed with the OT devices. Okay. So definitely that challenge is there, and so there are like Dr. Shukla mentioned about this IEC 6443 certified analyst or risk assessment. There are 4 or 5 different certification from 6443 for a person. Okay, so this type of certifications are trying to fill that gap, and even there was a report based on the job post in Indeed.com, in which it demanded around 1,000 of this job posting demanded certification like GSP. Okay, so which means that this demand for this such a hybrid skill is growing in the industry. Like the people who are either certified of GICSP or IC 6443, that is I think growing exponentially in the past maybe 1 or 2 years. Also, one more thing I need to add. So we might have read recently that Singapore CSA, which is the governmental organization in Singapore, they have developed a competency framework specifically for cybersecurity staffs. Okay, they call it PCCF. Okay, so that's kind of happening to address those gaps, and also to ascertain that what are the skills required. It is not just a cybersecurity skill. I believe that no cybersecurity expert can directly go to OT and do some fix or do some control. They need to gain that knowledge of OT devices and what's happening. Yeah.
Great. I think we are coming to a fag end of the session. But let me touch upon a few more aspects. Mr. Bindu, could you briefly touch upon the new interventions that are coming up? Since you work with research quite deeply, anything that in your mind is coming up which is addressing the cybersecurity issues?
Yeah, I think I'll take a cue from Dr. Shukla because he brought up the standards. But in the goal of the energy sector, what we're talking, how much of control do we have on the technologies which are there in the sector? So that becomes the start point. So we are seeing those as black box. So then subsequently, it is a heterogeneous system. It is no homogeneous thing. It's a heterogeneous system. And coming to that, I think risk modeling and prediction, we have models and try to use things like tactics and defense vectors and such models to be created. And this not only seeing on system vulnerability, we should be able to see the scenario vulnerabilities also. So that becomes in totality where we'll see. So it starts from the access point vulnerability, take out the scenario see the vulnerability, and then try to see what is when the cases and features to have a from approach, strong approach. Want us to continuously improve whatever things are existing because we can get away with the existing systems. So we have to live with the system. It can be legacy or it can be one generation behind whatever we are talking of an open system or standard-based system, right? So it is always we are living a heterogeneous system. So we should have some sort of continuous improvement program for that. Having some scanners, and I think Ramesh came out very good this one, and trying to have some cyber hygiene also in this particular having continuous monitoring. And of course, it goes without saying that we should comply to some with some standard and have a risk management plan, which is a continuous process which is happening. But this alone will not help. So we should have some sort of a disruptive approach also. So where we should do some sort of a technology wise, because what we are talking is people, process, and technology. So people who can enhancement of things, processes we add and technology you see that process technologies we can come in this particular space because every time we talk about cybersecurity, we talk about infrastructure security. But for authentication, two-factor authentication, that's what Ramesh was talking, right? So there is a three verticals which are there in security also: information security, infrastructure security, and application security. Application security becomes domain specific. That's where we have to have some sort of a attack resilient algorithms to be in place, and we should have some model-based algorithms also, and try to do something faster than the system which is there. It is like the control system response time is something you try to do in that particular space faster than that, and so that you can have some sort of a change in the set point if possible. And the other thing, what is of very prominent is the attack. Is earlier days it was a single attack sort of scenario. Whatever reported, it can be. If you see from 2010 to 2021, these are all mostly a single attack which is there. But people today are talking about coordinated attacks. And a space like energy sector is a coordinated attack. Just imagine there is an attack on electricity and there is an attack on the fuel. So the coordinated attack is a scenario which is people are talking about. And to particular thing and to have some self-defense systems from an thing where we are talking about the itself can we have so these are some of the things because security is a moving target. So you have to have service and have some mitigation. These are all moving target. When it comes to people, it should be well and to process to follow the current processes, technology should be left. So this is how the in holistic view on this particular.
Wonderful. You have covered the complete umbrella There are few questions in the chat which we'll shortly take. But before we come to that, Dr. Shukla, we've seen establishment of certification and registration of kind of safety inspectors, auditors, and so on. Those who are able to certify that the things are safe. You know, uh, is it possible to have something similar for a cyber security also? Is that, do you see it feasible, or do you see it being discussed somewhere?
Yeah, so in the cybersecurity, there are a number of different certification programs around the world. Some are pretty well recognized, like OSCP, but these are mostly on the IT side. On
Right.
the OT ISIS side, SANS Institute has some certificate program, which is very expensive. I think that those are out of the reach of the Indian uh, utilities to send their engineers, etc. So I think we have to create our own. And I know that Quality Council of India (QCI) has been working on some of these under a project from NCIPC. So hopefully that will come up in time. So that is something, but yeah, I mean that is very much required. But one thing I must say is that there are a lot of things which we could do without a whole lot of effort or a whole lot of new technology. For example, last few days the world is going on fire regarding the Log4j vulnerability that came out
Right.
in one of the
Reopening.
most common Java libraries that has been packaged into many applications.
Yes.
Schneider, Siemens, Rockwell, they have come up with the mitigations because they also package in, these products. There are Java products inside these which are in turn embedding this.
We lost voice.
Yeah, I think Dr. Shukla is, we lost him. And I think by the time he comes back, uh, Mr. Akala, could we come to specific power sector and any changes that you see coming in terms of security as for the power sector specifically?
No, yeah, as far as power sector is concerned, because it's categorized as a very critical information infrastructure. See, the point was earlier speakers told that the industry person, those who are responsible for maintenance of instrumentation controls, so they lack the knowledge of this IT side cybersecurity, and those people who are knowledgeable on this IT side and managing the IT applications, they are aware, they are able to manage, but they do not know about the instrumentation and control side. So these two platforms to be brought on a single umbrella, and they should work in tandem on a collaborative mode, and therefore the knowledge of the IT cybersecurity can be passed on to the instrumentation control person and vice versa. So I think with that, we can be in a position to really have this fencing, whether perimeter or internal, all this stuff. Yeah.
So
Thank you.
there was one question from Mr. Ivan, on specifically for you, Mr. Ramesh. Do you use a specialized product for OT networks or a more broad traffic analyzer? This is coming for you. Any comments on that?
Yes. We have a analyzer, recently deployed in our network, which is continuously monitoring the external attacks that are targeted into our network. And those reports we have even automated where the analyzer itself will identify, and it will push these latest patches or signatures through a server to into the other firewalls. So this kind of detection using the this analyzer is taken care.
Okay. So, Dr. Shukla, you got cut in between. If you
Yeah,
could
sorry,
continue, also there's one question for you. Please address and find more information on the trusted vendor certification program. So, if you could cover up that aspect also, sir.
okay, so at that point, what I was trying to say is that what is happening in banks and everywhere, everybody is running helter-skelter to find whether they have an application that they bought from a vendor who use Java, and in that deeply embedded somewhere there is Log4j. So it's very difficult for them to even know unless the vendor comes up and says that here it is, and I'm patching it and you patch it, and this is ongoing. And at the same time, Microsoft came up saying that nation state are already active trying to fingerprint various systems for this vulnerability, and nowadays the vulnerability is recognized and fingerprinted and cataloged for attack in the future. So you may not see a large attack right now, but if you don't patch yourself, then you are going to be up for a surprise in some time in the future.
Yes.
Regarding the trusted vendor question, it's still in the committee phase, and therefore there is no information outside. But Telecom in India, the Department of Telecom has a trusted vendor program, which I believe has a portal and everything. So one can actually search that, and this trusted vendor program is kind of inspired by the Department of Telecom only. So you may get some idea from there, but the power system one is just in the what should we check for in a trusted vendor, etc., are being discussed. So we don't have any public document right now.
So I think we've already exhausted our time. There is a question from Alicia which says, is firewall sufficient these days given how easily they seem to be? Definitely not. You need a whole set of solutions to make the complete orchestra work. It's like symphony orchestra where different aspects of the music have to be covered and everything has to work together to make it working. So thank you everybody for giving us time to air our views on this topic, and I'm sure you would have found it good to your liking, the thoughts which have come out from all of us. And thanks once again for joining in. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.